Hi viewers. Today, I will explain a movie called Cruel Intention. Cruel Intentions is a 1999 American teen romantic drama film about a young boy and his stepsister. This boy really wanted to make love with his stepsister, so they made a bet. If he wins, he could make love to her. Spoiler ahead, let's start the story. The film begins with a rich high school boy named Sebastian, who is undergoing psychological therapy for being sexually addicted. Instead of therapy, Sebastian was aroused by his psychologist. After Sebastian left, suddenly this psychologist's daughter called and said that her nude photos were uploaded on the internet. And it turned out that the one who spread the photo was Sebastian. The psychologist went after Sebastian, but Sebastian had left with a girl he just met. Next, we are introduced to Catherine, Sebastian's stepsister. Catherine is labeled as a good child and a role model at school. So Cecile and her mother asked Catherine for tips and tricks on how to be a good child. Suddenly, Sebastian came and greeted Cecile's mother by shouting in her ear. Because they felt uncomfortable with Sebastian, who had been labeled a nuisance. Cecile and her mother finally left the house. After that, it is seen that Catherine is also not as good as she might seem. Catherine said that she really hates Cecile because Catherine's boyfriend cheated on Cecile, so Catherine wants to take revenge on Cecile. She ordered Sebastian to sleep with Cecile so that Cecile was labeled as a bad girl by people. But Sebastian refused as he didn't want to make love with Cecile. Because getting Cecile was easy, too easy. For Sebastian he needed a challenging one. Sebastian also looked at a magazine that had a photo of a girl named Annette. She was known as a smart girl, diligent in worship, the daughter of the principal, and did not want to make love before marriage. So Sebastian wanted to get laid with Annette, because it would increase the level of his fame. Hearing that Catherine doubted Sebastian could pull it off, Sebastian feels challenged and invites Catherine to make a bet, where if Sebastian fails to make love with Annette, then Sebastian's favorite car will belong to Catherine. But if Sebastian succeeds in getting laid with Annette, Sebastian can also enjoy his stepsister's bottom cave and Sebastian can stab her anywhere. Then Sebastian goes to his aunt's house. It turned out that his aunt was the arrival of the guest. His aunt said Annette would be staying here for a week. Sebastian was really happy and immediately began to tempt Annette. But apparently Annette knew Sebastian's reputation and didn't want to talk to him. Feeling rejected, Sebastian is increasingly challenged by Annette's cold attitude. On the other hand, Cecile was studying music with her teacher named Ronald. Instead of teaching, was aroused by Cecile. Suddenly Catherine came and Ronald was shocked, then he left the place. Then Sebastian goes to his gay friend and asks him who has spread his secret. His friend also suspected Greg, Annette's best friend. But it turned out that it wasn't Greg that spread Sebastian's secrets. After Sebastian threatened Greg to find out, finally we know that Cecile's mother leaked his secret. On the other hand, Catherine is relaxing with Cecile, and from here Catherine knows that Cecile also likes her music teacher Ronald. When at home, Sebastian was very emotional because he was upset with Cecile's mother. Finally he's worked together with Catherine to drop Cecile and his mother. The next day, Sebastian and Catherine run their mission by reporting to Cecile's mother about Ronald's love story with Cecile. Cecile's mother was angry and immediately drove Ronald away. When in the elevator, Ronald met Sebastian and Catherine, who told him that Cecile also loved him. Ronald was told to write a reply letter for his love Cecile. Then Sebastian brought the letter to Cecile. But here Sebastian is even aroused and intends to screw Cecile. Sebastian immediately kisses Cecile, but it's not her mouth lips, but down under. The next day, their aunt told Sebastian and Annette to go to the nursing home. After returning from the nursing home, Annette knew that Sebastian was very bored there, so she entertained Sebastian all the way home. Annette can make Sebastian laugh, and this is where they feel love for the first time. On the other hand, Cecile tells the story that last night Sebastian wrote letters with his tongue until she felt like exploding. But Catherine instead said that the thing that Cecile did was correct, and it would make Cecile a real woman. Catherine also told Cecile to practice sleeping with Sebastian, so that later it didn't make Ronald disappointed when makes love with her. The next day, Sebastian was observing Annette. Catherine came and reminded him of the bet they did. Hearing that, Sebastian convinced Catherine that he would not lose. Then Sebastian approached Annette and immediately kissed her. Apparently Annette also wanted to be kissed by Sebastian. But suddenly Annette changed her mind and immediately pushed Sebastian, so they start fighting. At night, Sebastian began to give up on getting Annette, so he wanted to say goodbye. But suddenly Annette instead locked the door. Then opened her clothes, and then told Sebastian to make love with her. But whatever changed Sebastian's mind. He instead ran away because he could not sleep with Annette. The next day, Annette turned out to have left her aunt's house to move to her friend's house. After finding out about Annette from Greg, finally Sebastian knew Annette was still at the station. Then he followed her and told Annette that he had fallen in love for the first time with Annette. And it turned out that Annette also fell in love with him. And finally they are making love, and this is the first time for Annette. So Sebastian has won the stakes. Then Sebastian returned home. Sebastian has won the bet, and wants to make love with his stepsister. But Sebastian instead hears moaning from Catherine's room. After entering the room, it turns out that Catherine is alone. But when the bottom drawer of the bed was opened there was a Ronald who has just finished making love with Catherine. So Ronald came out of there because he was embarrassed. Catherine was still not satisfied here. So she told Sebastian to make love with her. But now Sebastian is feeling disgusted with Catherine, so he left her, angering Catherine. Catherine continued to try to make love with Sebastian. But Catherine saw Sebastian was intently interested on Annette. Catherine was upset, so she told Sebastian that his reputation would be destroyed if he was dating Annette. Catherine also threatened to tell Annette about the stakes. Hearing the threat, Sebastian chose to tell Annette himself. He told her that he never loved her, and did everything just because of a bet he had to make love to her to win. Annette felt hurt and drove out Sebastian. Sebastian returned to his house and met Catherine. He said that he had broken up with Annette, so it was time for Catherine to make love with Sebastian. But it turned out that Catherine did not want to do it, because since the beginning Catherine had planned all this. He used Sebastian to screw Cecile. Not only Sebastian. Even Ronald, Cecile's mother, were only considered as pawns by Catherine. Catherine said that Sebastian was very stupid, because he left his first love just because he was afraid of losing his reputation. Then Sebastian went to meet Annette. But she did not want to meet him. So Sebastian gave her a letter and his diary containing all the girls who had been making love with him. The next day, Catherine called Ronald by the phone and said that Sebastian had slept with Cecile. Ronald was really angry and went looking for Sebastian. Finally Ronald managed to find Sebastian and immediately beat him. It turned out that Annette also followed Sebastian. So she was about to separate the fight. But bad luck, Annette was thrown into the middle of the road and almost hit by a car. Sebastian, who saw it, immediately pushed Annette. Finally Sebastian was hit by a car, and now he is dying. Before Sebastian died he had time to say that he does love Annette. On the first day of school, all students commemorate Sebastian's death. Catherine made a speech here as chair of the student council and Sebastian's stepsister. Suddenly a student came and distributed a book that made the other students leave one by one. Catherine was upset and curious, so she also comes out. It turns out that everyone was reading a copy of Sebastian's diary containing all the secrets and crime of Catherine so far. When the principal opened the necklace it turned out to have drugs inside. Instantly the reputation of Catherine as an example student was destroyed. At the end of the film, we see Annette, who was relieved and happy because the truth was out. And the movie of Cruel Intention is over. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. Please, give me thumbs up and click the subscribe button to receive a cookie. See you on